Rogue is an interesting one. I mean, I know we've been beating when I say we, I mean you, the analysts, have been beating the drum of Rogue since the beginning of the split, a team that you are very fond of, that will yield high results, and they have been so far in the first half of the LEC summer split. But can it continue? And I wonder if they will remain in the conversation for the remainder of the split. And also, here's another thought. I know the power rankings are very difficult to put through because these regions are not facing each other and they're very, point-based system, etc. But even though they went 2-0 this week, Rogue went up one spot, right? And I'm wondering, like, just in general, the perception of them even though they're first right now, do we still need them to either beat G2 or beat Mad Lions? You know what I mean? Like, do we see them as a top team or the top team in the LEC? Or do we still need them to prove something else to us in order to be considered in those conversations?
Yeah, they honestly have to beat G2 or Fnatic. That's the entire LEC. When G2 and Fnatic have traded back trophies for the last, like 6 years, literally they've won 14 combined European championships, and none other, organizations done it. Of course they do. Even if G2 and Fnatic are, a 500 team going into playoffs, I would still say those two teams should be favored. It's the aura, right? It's like, even if G2's is below Mad Lions and Rogue going to playoffs, I'm still gonna bet on this G2 team. Fnatic maybe not so much because this is a new roster, unlike G2 where we know this team can win championships and go to the World Finals. But yeah, Rogue, even the biggest Rogue fan as I am, someone who's been, trumpeting them since the very beginning, saying they're going to Worlds, they are a very talented team, as they've been showing, but they're not going to be that number one or even number two team in Europe until they can go to the playoffs and eliminate a Fnatic, eliminate a G2. Until that happens, you can't really say that Europe has changed at all until a team can actually dispatch one of those two teams. Because Fnatic and G2 have been trading championships back and forth for years on years. It needs to happen in the playoffs. Regular season, as as nice as it looks that you see the number one and number two spots for Rogue and Mad Lions, nothing of that matters until they can actually beat the G2 and the Fnatic juggernaut in the playoffs.
I think it also depends on how good you feel like all of Europe is right now compared to previous splits. Because I think just in general, despite the fact that everyone can beat up on everyone, and I still think Europe is a comparatively strong region, I think the level of play has decreased slightly in recent weeks. And I mean, that might just be due to having to play online. I think we really saw it initially when China came back online, and they were I think their level of play has actually improved since they were able to go back to the Shanghai stadium and play live, even though it's not in front of audiences. So I think that's also something to consider when you're looking at whenever you're talking about parity in a league. Is it everyone can beat everyone and everyone's strong? Because I don't think that's a good argument, but I also don't think everyone can beat everyone and so we're bad is a good argument either. I think it then comes down to how you feel like teams would match up. And I do still have a lot of faith in G2, less so in Fnatic right now, to be honest. But I still think Rogue are a top team, but it is going to take having a really strong playoff run in order to do it for me.
Jacob, any thoughts on that?
I disagree with either, right? Like, I think G2 is the barometer from an international perspective, and we've seen so many, we've seen a confluence of circumstances that have landed them where they're at right now, with like Perk's father's dying and him and them not practicing very much because of it, because he went home and then came back just very close to the beginning of the season. Obviously, he was absent this past week. So I just think that they're having to deal with a lot of things at G2 that aren't interpersonal like they may be at Fnatic. They're just kind of like around the team and things happening around them that I wouldn't take credit away from G2 quite yet. And I do think they are the barometer in terms of potential international success for any LEC team.
Yeah, I go back to just to tie a bow on Rogue here. I go back to what I said about the work ethic. I that stuck with me. I think that there's definitely a good vibe with this team. There's definitely an improvement here and a willingness to win, and I think that that's a great foundation to build upon. A playoff experience, of course. G2 and Fnatic, like you all have said, have that best of 5 experience, right? So it's really that can't be taught. That has to be experienced, right? And G2 and Fnatic have that in droves. So that will always remain to be seen.
We also have to add that Europe has 4 teams going to Worlds this year, so it's there's going to be, even if G2 and Fnatic go as they usually do, there's still 2 more spots open. So like Rogue and Mad Lions might not topple the G2 juggernaut in the playoffs, but I think with the new format of Europe and China having more teams, I think it gives a bigger chance for one of these the Mad Lions, the Rogues, even a team like Misfits to kind of maybe have that showcase performance on the world stage. If Europe is good as some people think they are, I do agree with Emily that I think the gameplay has not been the greatest, but it really hasn't been the greatest in any region. I would say, and it's a large part to the online component of everything.